Okay, we got audio, we have camera, we have charts. We are all set and ready to go. I'll have to get back to the palatial office. Or we could go to the simulated office. Operating all the controls here. We'll try this for a little while. All right, friends, how you doing? Today it is Wednesday, October 30th, and I'm going to provide some analysis. Not necessarily your typical technical analysis, because, quite frankly, typical technical analysis is just that. It's worth practically nothing. But instead, we'll take a look at what I believe is the proper way to do an analysis of markets. First of all, it is not a lagging indicator, although it does show price structure from a historical perspective, but it also is showing you what is the structure currently in the market. It shows you where supply and demand are, where the market itself, the traders who are trading, find value, and where they find no value. It is a very accurate predictor of behavior as we enter into certain price zones. And it is also a very accurate, and really the only true direct indicator that will show you where support and resistance are. Everything else is a derivative of price action, and usually a lagging indicator at that. So those are the reasons why I like volume profile, and it is also basically a newer version of what traders gone by, starting from the late 1800s into the 20th century, used forever, and that was volume and order flow. And professional traders, even to this day, that is their go-to analytical method. Retail traders, on the other hand, they do what the broker narrative prescribes of them. But don't fear. We'll get through this. So let's take a look at what's going on in the Bitcoin world. And before I get started, let's do a little bit of a history. I like to start, first of all, with the big picture approach. And we know that over the last 2.5 years, it's been quite exciting. We've experienced two bubbles. The biggest bubble, bringing Bitcoin to an all-time high, starting or peaking on December 17th of 2017, the day the CME futures introduced their 5 Bitcoin contract. And of course, that was a day that I predicted. To the contrary of the rest of the Bitcoin pundits who know nothing about, well, at least at that time, they knew nothing about market dynamics and what futures were used for. It was an easy call. But anyways, since then, we've been slowly degrading price. We'll go to the charts. We can see that very clearly. Here's the bubble on the left, and then our slow degradation of price until we found a bottom. Now, I'm not saying, and I'm not claiming, like most people do, that this is the ultimate bottom or the last bottom of about 3,100. You can't say that, because nobody knows what the future holds. But we did find a bottom, and from there was massive accumulation. And the way you can tell that is by going over here on the volume profile and take a look at this huge, huge node where the vast majority of the volume occurred right at about $37.96, about $3,800. And that occurred with just a few candles, just in a few days. Almost all of that volume came here, an accumulation period. And then from there, we were pushed up, artificially, I might add. All of these moves up were manipulated up, but that's not unusual. The markets are in their most normal mode, manipulated. But the thing that is, I guess, apart from what most analysts will tell you is that virtually none of the price action that goes on in Bitcoin is the result of retail traders. Almost all of the action is the result of whales manipulating the price. And that can't really be said for more traditional markets where you have a much larger contingent of retail traders, although it's been slowly diminishing over the years. And automated trading, robots, computer-generated trading makes up about 85% of the market. These days, that at least in the Bitcoin world, that is almost the exclusive player in this market. Now, they're not all on the same page, of course. They're fighting amongst each other, trying to gain an advantage, trying their pumps and dumps. And that moves us into the most recent mini bubble that we experienced here starting in the spring of this year, and then moving into summer, and then consolidate down. But I don't see that as really happening. I only see this as in much the same way and the same kind of behavior that we saw with the bubble of 2017, 2018. We will continue to break down. We had a mini push up just recently, and that was catalyzed by the announcement from China, and Chairman Xi, who proclaimed that China should and will or may, there was no definitive announcement, but alluded to that China may want to take, and of course the whales, they took well advantage of that event and pumped it up. They saw that this was the perfect time that they could easily pump price up with minimal effort. And that's the key here. They pumped it up with minimal effort because when they can use less money to make a pump, then their dumps will be far more effective as they draw in more and more retail weenies, that would be you, to donate to their cause. And that's where we're at now, and now we're in the midst of their divesting of their pump and collecting all your bit prescient analysis. Where are we going from here? We will continue to degrade price, probably down to the 8,000, 8,300 area. That is where PatternCast has predicted that the market will come down to. PatternCast being our pattern recognition AI technology that has called this market to a T. I would say that we definitely did not call the pump up. However, we did predict that price would go up there and that volatility would increase. So it's kind of hard through a pattern recognition technology, to anticipate the chairman of the most evil nation on the planet to announce something, Anyways, We are now, let's go to a daily view of the volume profile. And one thing that we're going to see from the daily view, let's bring more of it into here, and where we are currently. So one thing I want to point out, what I've drawn in here, these lines, are the edges of volume nodes and where there is likely support and resistance. And then this line in the middle here, right here, I'll color it differently. Let's give that a, I don't know, let's give that a different color. Let's call that green. Now we'll give it a nice blue. I don't like all these, such a limited choice. How about orange? Yeah, we'll give it an orange. That's good. So this orange line here, all that's showing or depicting is the absolute low volume point. And that price point is at about $9,200. And that's just about, I'm sorry, it's not, it's about $8,900. We've been hovering around the 9,200 area, which would be this line here. I'll extract it out a little bit. Only because you can see here there is this sort of a minor volume node, and it's hard to see on the daily chart. It's a smaller, it's more localized, and when we zoom in we'll see that. We're struggling to get past that so that we can enter into this much larger volume well here. Once we enter into that, and we've just started to with today's price action, once we get into that, you'll see that we'll move very quickly down to the other side, to this next massive volume node, which was formed out of these two events here, this consolidation most recently in the month of October, and also back here in the early or later May and early June, which created this nice big fat volume node. And that's where we're heading. I believe that that is where we're heading. Now, it's very possible that we move back up to here in the 10,200 area, but I don't see any real reason for doing that from a fundamental point of view. There's simply not new people coming into this market. Sure, the market is...
But all this is great, but nothing actually happens unless somebody makes it happen.
Wow, what is that?
We have over 700 employees with tremendous experience in the key elements of what it takes to be successful in the cannabis industry. In cannabis specifically, we have team members with scores of cannabis cups under their belts. In retail, Beth and her team pioneered their award-winning...
Let's turn that off. The cannabis industry. Probably very, very similar to the Bitcoin industry in terms of its dynamics. So right now, price is sitting at, where is price sitting at? We're at 91.82. And so here's a more localized, more recent version of our chart. This is a 1 hour chart. And the one thing that we can see from here is that we're hovering over a more localized volume well. And while this might exert some influence over price action, so there really isn't much going on. And when you have a volume well like that, or a lack of volume, what's happening here is that these are areas where the market just doesn't find value, and it's likely that when we get into those areas, price will start moving quickly. It'll either get rejected quickly or it will move through it quickly. We've already gotten rejected once today, and we moved out of there very quickly and back up to where we're at now. And we can see that perhaps in this chart here. It's a little bit buggy here. All right. So we can see that we've dipped down a few times here at about, that was last night or yesterday afternoon. And then again, we degraded since last night after rebounding. And then this morning at about 6 a.m. Eastern time, we set a low, which was just below that $9,000 area. A lot of people will claim that 9,000 for whatever reason is some sort of psychological level. I don't believe in psychological levels. The whales may want to play off those levels only because they know that the noobs and the retail traders may look at that as some kind of psychological level. The only people that believe that are the people who believe in the broker narrative. All right. So I don't believe in that psychological level. They may there is some heavy duty, and we can see from this the tensor charts these lines, these yellow lines, horizontal lines, indicate where people have placed orders, buy orders, and you can see that there's some heavy buy orders here up in the 9100 area. They're trying to support this price, but you can also see above this there are some nice sell orders in here too. And I can accentuate these a little bit by bringing a few more of these in view. So blue would be the lower volume, and yellow would be the higher volume. So there's definitely a range here. It appears the market's trying to keep us right around here, but no matter what the market does, it's not going to stop this overall downtrend. I mean, if we were to take a look at this, since our since the move up, the Chairman Xi move. Hold on a second. Let's get to that. So I call this the Xi move here, this spike up. You can see that, we've come down, dead cat bounce or a secondary high. This is very similar to the anatomy of a bubble because we have that initial blow off top, secondary high or a secondary blow off top, followed by, and I thought I turned off my phone. Turn that off. So any of these little rallies here, I believe, can be shorted. There's significant support underneath here in terms of players, and that is also supported by the local volume profile. But I don't think anything's going to stop it. Everybody knows it's going to go down. The bigger players, the whales, they want it to go down. That's how they're going to cash in. And so I see us moving right back to this channel that we've developed over the last couple of months after our breakdown from the that secondary minor bubble that we had here that a lot of people term as the descending triangle. Now, you can call it whatever you want, but that was a bubble. That was another minor bubble, and it's petered out. And here we have consolidated We got a reason. And during this consolidation, we started to go down. It looked like we were really going to break down. And the whales were looking for any kind of catalyst, any reason to get out of here. Now, when this broke down like this, down in this area here, the market, the liquidity in the market was drying up. And so it created a very ripe environment for whales to push this up if they got the right catalyst. And when Xi announced that China was going to lead in blockchain development, and then just a few days later, the whole Politburo sort of backs off on that statement, which I think now is going to be an anti-catalyst, which will aid in dropping us down. There was very little liquidity there, and made it very easy for whales to pump this up using very little resource. So they didn't have to expend as much money to bamboozle all you stupid retail traders. So now here we are. We're about to give it all back. Just give it back. Give it back to the master. All right? So we're in this kind of sideways movement. We're putting in lower highs, lower lows. We will eventually roll over and then hit this volume well, which is all sitting right in this area, and then come down very quickly. I think, our first stop is to the 8,300 area, which is right about here. It's not too far down. Only about 800 points. And then finally to about the 7,700 area, which I think is the middle of the larger volume node here. So we have an initial volume node here at about 86. We're looking at 83 as being our ultimate target, which is the top side of this large volume node. And then to just work back into this channel and just continue on with this channel. Now we may have other opportunities to move up or move down. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see what the market holds. There doesn't appear to be a whole lot of Bitcoin or crypto news coming out. A lot of people are talking about, now that Bitcoin is sort of falling off the edge here, that this will be the opportunity to invest in more altcoins. I don't know why anybody would want to invest in altcoins right now. There may be a handful of projects out there. When I say a handful, like fewer than the fingers on your hand, that are out there worth investing in. Maybe one infrastructure play in Hedera, and maybe 4 or 5 other projects out there that are worth even looking at. Most are frauds, scams, money grabs. There's no new money going into those unless it's people that, I don't know, unless somebody can manipulate those and if they can make a buck. That will be the future. Hedera Hashgraph's coin may also supplant, I don't think it will totally supplant, but may supplant Bitcoin in what Bitcoin's initial use was. I mean, originally it was supposed to be our a replacement for the reserve currency. Now it is some sort of digital gold. But it's not even really a digital gold. It is more a speculative piece that can act as some sort of store of value. But what I think it will really be is this kind of asset that can be manipulated and pumped and dumped over and over and over again, because it has so many people. It has a fairly wide following, but not enough to really turn it into anything of substance. So it may end up just being that, just a store of value, something that can be manipulated over some time. It may gain some traction in the long run, but that would require some significant updates or changes to its underlying code base. because I think in its present value it won't meet the needs of a majority of people going forward into the future. Things like Lightning are showing to be abysmal failures, nothing more than surrogate networks for banks to be ushered in. Ill-conceived, so I don't think governance model that can tend to the regional and local and various types of needs of people around the world. And Bitcoin simply doesn't have that capability, again, unless they are able to work that into the code base, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's probably better just to keep it what it is, and that is this sort of digital gold. I don't think it will ever replace gold, but it is, I guess that's what it is. It's some sort of digital precious metal that we all can speculate on, that we can tool around with. It will be the thing that will be the entry point for new people that develop a penchant for cryptocurrencies, which I don't see really happening for the next few years. It's going to take a little while, unless there is some... no, I'm not even going to say that. So anyways, as far as near-term possibilities or probabilities or profit-making probabilities, I'd say that right now short looks best. I think it's got to be in the 75-80% case. Long, lesser so. That's a big speculative thing, unless there is some other kind of catalyst out there and whales can take advantage of it. But I think they've already blown their wad for now. They need to regroup, collect some more Bitcoin, wait for the next opportunity that will cost them less money before they pump it up again. And that's where we're at. Let's see what we have for comments. When China news pumps, was tether holders in the West looking on pump time? Yeah, of course, we're all looking at, when there's new Tether minted. Of course, we know that Tether is largely a fraudulent stablecoin. They certainly don't have enough Tether to account for the dollars that they represent, or they don't have dollars to represent or to account for the amount of Tether that is represented by those. So, yeah, we watch Tether. Great Day says it's going to be a beautiful BART. Yeah, the BART pattern is interesting. It's but it is really indicative of high-powered manipulation, whim manipulation. Fist Pumper has identified himself correctly as a stupid retail trader. It's good, because I'm a stupid retail trader too. Just a little less stupid than most of you. Chris Corey says, I'm thinking this mini bubble from June 24th until now looks very similar to December. All the bubbles look very similar. All the bubbles follow a basic pattern in anatomy. Just look up bubble anatomy and study it. There is a late past YouTuber, Tyler Jenks, that kind of rebranded bubbles. He called it the hyperwave, which I thought was idiotic. No disrespect to Tyler, but it was stupid. And tried, and I can understand, trading Bitcoin. That's really what that's the only time Bitcoin has any kind of real trading opportunity, is when it goes into one of these little mini bubbles or major bubbles. And it's been defined so far in its lifetime by about 6 or 7 of them. And I expect that that's what it will be next time. Next time we'll move into some kind of mini bubble or major bubble. Maybe the next one will give us our next new high. Who knows? So continues on saying, meaning there might be an entire second phase of the bubble pop ahead. Yeah, I think so. I think it'll tend to drop down a little bit more and maybe go sideways, and at some point there's going to be an accumulation phase. And at that accumulation phase, we'll look at that very closely at the amount should follow soon. Thoughts on new Fed cuts today? Well, first of all, I don't think that the Fed cutting interest rates really has anything to do with Bitcoin, but I think what they are acting on their overexuberance and also pressure from the president, and realizing what they've done was dumb to increase rates as quickly as they did. Not because here in America we have problems. As a matter of fact, we're strong compared to the rest of the world, but the rest of the world is lagging. And when we raise interest rates, it kind of puts them into a bind. So we're bringing our interest rates back down to a place where the rest of the world can more easily manage their situation, their weak economies. Maybe at some point they'll take a lesson from the U.S. and start cutting taxes and regulation and get off this whole globalist band kick. Fist Pumper says, short since PatternCast call, entered early at 96.33. Buy limit set at 83.50, but thinking about trailing to anticipate bottom of large node. That's a good strategy. I like that. That's very similar to what I'm doing as well. All right. Current price, 91.80. That's on Kraken. On BitMEX, we're at 91.83. A Larry says gold is about to dump. Very interesting. Let's take a look at gold. We'll look at gold futures. How does A Larry know that gold is about to dump? I would say that is definitely a probability. I mean, we're sitting here on this massive volume well, but is it a volume well? Let's go back and bring in some more data. How much data can we get? We'd have to probably go all the way back to 2011 to get some more data in here to see whether or not there is a legit volume well here, and there is. So even if we go back all the way to 2011 on the weekly, we can clearly see gold is stuck on this little volume node here. It is consolidating around that. The market is finding value right around that 1500 mark. Now, does that mean that we're going to be moving now up or down, either into this volume well here or up above? That's a tough one to say. Maybe we're going to start a new channel here. I don't know. But it is teetering on the edge of this well, so it's possible we could dip into here and move down quickly, or get rejected like we did here. Looks like right at about the end of September. Got rejected. So perhaps with the state of the world being so tenuous, not counting the United States is doing great. With the state of the world so tenuous, gold may stay propped up for a little while, and we may build out this value node, because that's where the market is finding value right now, and just create a nice base there and hang out for a while. That's the way I see it. We may come back down in here. I mean, there would have to be a significant catalyst for us in reason for gold to drop back down to this massive value node that has been developed over the past several years. But for whatever reason, gold doesn't want to be between 1480 and 1430. It just does not want to be there. That's how I see it. And I don't know what the catalyst would be for it to move down. I personally think we're going to just continue moving sideways and develop that value area. Back to the office. All my employees back there. Seed says, is there currently a beta of Metalcast running before launch? Just interested. Metalcast is really a subgroup of PatternCast, of MarketCast. MarketCast being the PatternCast service that is focused on the markets, the general markets, futures, Forex, and stocks. Metalcast is a subset of that we have brought out into a separate service. Now, we haven't really promoted it that really yet, but because we're going to add more assets to it over time. So it is not being evaluated or scanned separately from the regular PatternCast. Of course, BitcoinCast is really a separate entity all of its own. It is, again, the same PatternCast technology, but applied specifically to Bitcoin. And we are still working on bringing in a few other altcoins, namely Ethereum, Ripple, and Litecoin, possibly. But we run into some snags. I would say that is more personnel related. It is very difficult to manage some of these developers. But we have made progress. Chris Corey, my earlier message was just suggesting we're about to partially through the popping phase of the bubble. I just made a post in Discord about it and wanted to see your thought. So yeah, I agree that what we experienced was a mini bubble, and that's what I've been terming it, and I believe that we will see another bubble soon. That's my guess, that there will be a mini bubble right around the halvening. So we should prepare for that. All right. That's about all I have to say. Please, if you've enjoyed this analysis, go down there, smash that like button. Share this video with your friends. Would really appreciate that. And for now, I bid you adieu. Farewell. See you next time. Bye-bye.